You can see the sun is out today. The sun is out. It is shining brightly, but we might also have some snow coming tonight. We will see what happens with that. Here we go again. We are back together, live as live can be. It's English Addict coming to you live and direct from the birthplace of the English language, which just happens to be, oh my goodness, it's England. Hi everybody, this is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? Are you feeling good? Today we are now halfway through the first month of the new year already. Steve was complaining yesterday. He was saying, I can't believe that we are already halfway through January. He was quite surprised by it, to be honest. And I suppose I am as well. We are already halfway through January. How has the year been so far? Has it been a good year? Has it been a nice year? Anything nice happened so far in 2023? Please let me know. If something nice has happened, we need some good news. We do. Because recently it's been nothing but doom and gloom. But not here. Not here. If you want to escape all of that, you are in the right place. We are here to have some fun. We are here to talk about the English language. We even use English as well. You may have noticed I'm talking in English right now. If you can't follow me clearly, then you can always look at the captions underneath. There are live. I'm not joking. Live captions. So if you can't follow what I'm saying, you can always open the captions that are on the screen as well. If you click, I think it is C on your keyboard, not on the live chat, but on your keyboard as a shortcut. And then the captions will open. Live captions, everyone. Ooh! Very nice. So my name is Duncan and I talk about English. You might say that I'm one of those up there. I am an English addict and I have a feeling maybe perhaps, I'm not sure, perhaps you are one of those as well. Here we are again. Yes, my name is Mr. Duncan. What is yours? Well, you will have a chance to let me know later on the live chat because we are here now live 8 minutes past 2 o'clock. It's a big one today. We have a lot to talk about. We also, of course, have Mr. Steve here today. He is here in the studio at around about 2:30. And we are talking about a very interesting subject today. We are talking about being rich and being poor, or perhaps somewhere in between as well. So you can be rich and have lots of money. You might be poor and have very little money, or you might be in the middle. You might be in between. You might be managing to survive. You might be living a comfortable life. You might not be rich. You might not be poor, but you live comfortably. So you don't have jewellery, you don't have everything made of gold, you don't go on expensive holidays, but you still have a comfortable life. Or maybe you are a person who likes to save your money and you don't want to spend it all the time. So there are many different types of wealth. Sometimes people like to show their wealth. They like to show off. They like to boast. I hate people who boast. They are very annoying. They often like to show off. So that's what we're talking about today. I hope you will stick with us. Mr. Steve is here as well. We are with you. And the weather at the moment is very strange. We are having some really weird weather. We had lots and lots of rain last week. In fact, we've had so much rain already there is lots of flooding in this area. In fact, the river, very close to where we live, the River Severn has flooded, and there is water now everywhere. Water where it should not be. There is nothing worse than having water where it should not be. So there is a lot of flooding taking place, a lot of things going on. But the strange thing is it's not 100% certain at the moment, but we might be getting some snow tonight. Heavy snow. So they seem at the moment, the weather forecasters, all of those lovely meteorologists have decided that we might be getting some snow tonight, and it might also be heavy snow. We will see what happens with that. By the way, don't forget to give me a lovely like as well. If you are watching this right now and you are enjoying yourself, maybe you are having the best time ever in your life, please give me a lovely like. It would be very nice to see your thumbs underneath this video as well. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's lovely to see you here. Yes, we have made it all the way to the end of another weekend and the end of another week. And as I mentioned, we are now halfway through the first month of this new year. Yes, it's Sunday. We are back, everyone, and yes, we are feeling pretty good, even though last night I was not very well. I wasn't very well last night. I had a strange moment, a strange physical moment. Something very odd happened, and I think I know the reason why. I am going to blame Mr. Steve for what happened last night. We might talk about it, but I did have a slight medical emergency last night. Find out what that was all about later on. We also have the live chat. Oh, hello, live chat. Nice to see you here as well. Who was first? I wonder who was first on today's live chat. Oh, very interesting. Beatrice, you are now fast becoming the new champion of the live chat, I think so. So you are now coming up as maybe in second place. Vitas, of course, is the king of the live chat click. But I have a feeling that Beatrice may be the queen of the live chat click. So congratulations to you, Beatrice. You are first on today's live chat. A few days ago, you may have heard about the attempt of the UK to become part of the space race. It didn't end very well, but today we are going to launch our own UK rocket. And I have a feeling this time it's going to work perfectly. So yes, we did try to launch a couple of satellites a few days ago into the atmosphere to orbit the planet, but unfortunately it did not turn out very well. In fact, you might say it was a little bit of a disaster. Wasn't it, Dr. David Starkey? Yes, it was. It was a little bit of a disaster. Unfortunately, the rocket decided to come back down to Earth with a bang, or should I say a splash. So it wasn't very successful. However, Europe, you may have read about this on the news or seen it on the internet, but apparently Europe is going to start launching rockets from the Arctic. Now, I thought I was imagining things last night. I was watching the news and I saw this story and I thought, Is that right? Is that true? It didn't sound right to me. My ears could hear it, but my brain was thinking that sounds very strange. But apparently Europe is going to enter into the space race, and they are going to start launching rockets from the Arctic or the polar circle. Somewhere like that anyway. Somewhere very cold. So we will see what happens there. Hello also to Valentin. Also we have Luis Mendez is here today. Hello Luis, nice to see you back on the live chat. Can I say thank you very much also for your lovely email that I received last week telling me all about your early life, and I found it absolutely fascinating. Now it might sound as if I am being nosy or maybe too inquisitive, but I have to say I was interested. I'm always fascinated by people's lives, especially their early life, growing up, maybe their situation, maybe their family situation or the circumstances in which they were raised, and how they achieved the things that they did and how they survived this crazy thing called life. Let's face it, this thing sometimes can be a little bit crazy. So thank you very much, Luis Mendez, for your lovely email. I'm always interested to find out about those things. As you know, and I have mentioned it a few times, I don't come from a wealthy family. I don't. And I say this, and I say it honestly. I did not come from a wealthy family. My parents had to work, and sometimes they had to work long hours, and it was difficult. I would not say that my childhood was easy. Definitely not easy. So we will be talking about that, and that will be included in today's topic, which is all about being rich or wealthy, or of course being poor and living in poverty. I think my family was nearer to poverty and poor than rich, if I was completely honest with you. Hello also to, who else is here? Vitas is here. Hello Vitas. It is nice to see you back where you belong. Hello also Palmyra, Jurshid and Darius. Hello to you. Reham is here as well. Olga. Hello Olga. Nice to see you here as well. We also have Magdalena, Zudzika, Marco. Hello Marco. Nice to see you here as well. A lot of people joining in on the live chat. A very interesting subject today. We are looking at being rich and poor, having wealth, or maybe you are finding it difficult to earn money or find money or keep your money. There are, of course, people who have money and then they spend the money. So some people might have a lot of wealth, but they waste their money, and maybe eventually they end up being poor. So it does happen. It happens in many different ways. Of course, some people win money as well. They suddenly come in to a great deal of money. They win the lottery, for example, or maybe one of their distant relatives dies and they leave them lots and lots of money. So there are many circumstances where a person can suddenly become wealthy. They can suddenly find that they have a lot of money and wealth as well. Hello, Baram. Hello to you. Nice to see you here today. Hello also to Christina. Hello to Hugo. Hello, Hugo. I like your name, by the way. Hello also to Reham. Hello to Mobile Gamer. Hello to you. Thank you, Mobile Gamer. Can you lend me $5, Mr. Duncan? Lend. There is an old proverb neither a lender nor borrower be. Which means sometimes it's good not to lend money and sometimes it's good not to borrow money. Although there might be situations where you have to do that and you have no choice. You have to borrow money from someone. I've done it in the past. I've borrowed money from the bank. The only problem with that is you have to give it back pretty quickly. So in the past, yes, in the past I have had to borrow money from the bank if I've needed some money in an emergency, perhaps. So I have done it in the past. But some people say that it is better not to be a lender or a borrower. It is best not to be either of those things. Hello, Francesca. I have changed my personal computer. It is now faster, so next time I will be first. Well, maybe your computer is fast, but is your finger? That is it, you see, because your finger is analog. Your computer is digital, but this is analog. It's mechanical. You have to use your finger to click the mouse. So just because you have a fancy computer with all of that lovely memory and all of those lovely gigabytes, you might not have a very fast finger. So don't forget, don't just train your computer to be fast. You also have to train your finger to be fast as well. So there is a little bit of advice for you, Francesca. A little advice just for you. Hello also, I'm not real. Hello, I'm not real. Well, guess what? I am. I'm very real, unfortunately. I feel every moment of this. Deeper than you realise. Hello also. Oh, we have Claudia. Hello, Claudia. Nice to see you here. And I think you know what I'm going to ask. I am going to ask the question I often ask when Claudia appears on the live chat. And that question is... What's cooking, Claudia? What have you got in the pot? What's cooking, Claudia? Is it something spicy and hot? Is it something salty or not? Oh, Claudia, what is in the pot? What is in the pot, Claudia? What are you cooking today? Last night, Mr. Steve decided to make chili con carne. Can I just say, that is the reason why I was ill last night. Can you guess what happened, though? Can you guess why I was ill last night because of Mr. Steve's chili con carne? If you think you know the answer to that, let me know on the live chat, please. So what is cooking, Claudia, today? Gianfranco says, I think that money is extremely important, especially today in a world in which everyone doesn't care about anyone else. Well, I think, yes, this is a very difficult subject to approach, so I have to be careful. I think it is possible to be wealthy and also to be caring. So I think having wealth does not necessarily mean that you won't care about other people. However, I think also the desire or the need to have lots of money can be seen as a selfish thing. And maybe that person just wants to take care of themselves. But I do believe that there is still a lot of generosity amongst people who are wealthy. They are altruistic. I like that word, altruism. A lot of people say that there is no altruism anymore, but I think there are still people who are both wealthy and also generous as well with their money and maybe also their time as well. Altruism. Altruism means to be generous or selfless. You do something kind or do something generous but you don't want anything in return. You might not even want people to know that you are doing it. I suppose a good example of that would be the singer George Michael. After his death, it turned out that he had anonymously donated money to many people who were just having difficulties in their lives, and he would send them money, let them have some of his wealth. So I would say that that is a form of altruism. It is something you are doing that's generous, but you don't want any recognition for it. So I think that is a good point. But yes, maybe in that way, maybe from what you're saying, Gianfranco, is that people have become more selfish these days. So maybe other people won't care for you or give you help or assistance. So maybe you have to make it on your own. You can't rely on other people because maybe we live in a more selfish world. I think it is a little bit of both. I think people are generous, but also they can be selfish. So we all have this inside us. I think all human beings can be a little selfish and maybe at times generous as well. So I think we all have that inside us. But I do agree with what you say. I think money can make you selfish, self-centered, and maybe even it can even change your personality. You might change the way you behave. You might change your outlook or the way you treat other people. So I think you are right. Yes, there is a little bit of truth in that, and I do agree with you there. So we have Mr. Steve coming up in a few moments. I hope you will stick with us. Do not click away because we have a lot of things coming up. And as you know, when Mr. Steve starts talking, when Mr. Steve's brain starts doing things, you never know what he's going to say next. So he will be with us in a little bit. Mr. Duncan is doing this live stream on Sunday and Wednesday at 2 p.m. UK time. So that is when I'm on, Luke. Hello, Luke. Nice to see you here. It's Sunday, that's today, of course, and Wednesday. You can catch me live as well. It's always the same time because it's easier to remember. 2 p.m. UK time is when I'm here with you. Hello also to Alessandra. We also have, who else is here? A Bamboo. Hello, Bamboo, for you. Nice to see you here as well. So in a few moments, we have Mr. Steve coming up, and coming on to the internet. And if you are easily upset or offended by jokes, because sometimes Mr. Steve, his mouth will open and things will come out, we never quite know what Mr. Steve is going to say next. So all of that is coming up in a little while. Don't go away. English Addict is on the air. It's on the internet right now. might be getting some snow later on. Can you believe it? There might be snow coming. So tomorrow morning we might wake up to snow all over the place. Dibbidi, here he is. Or is it? Who are you?
Hello, Mr. Duncan.
Hello.
Where am I today? Is this the internet?
It is the internet.
Hello! I couldn't keep it up for long.
Oh, okay. Well, I was hoping you'd stay in character.
Well, I can for a bit longer, Mr. Duncan. You know me. I can. I've just come off my estate, you know. I've just been telling the workers what to do.
Have you
handing them a bit of loose change?
I notice it's lambing season at the moment.
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. Yes, I've been helping there in the barns.
How many lambs have you had your hand up?
Oh, well, I don't do any of that dirty work. You know, I leave that all to my workers, my land staff.
How many acres?
Oh, just a couple of thousand, you know.
A couple of thousand? That's Staffordshire.
Yes, well, I mean, you know, mostly agriculture, but we have a few lambs, we've got some sheep, I've got some cattle.
Cattle?
And, of course, lots of outbuildings and things like that, bit of hunting, fishing and shooting that goes on there, you know.
So what do you normally hunt?
Well, we hunt wild boar, pheasants, of course, which I sell to the local establishments for them to sell on to the peasants.
What about... talking of peasants, do you ever shoot the peasants?
Well, I used to, but of course these days you can be banged up for that sort of thing. You've got to be careful about shooting people these days.
It's political correctness gone mad.
Yes, you're not allowed to get away with that now. I mean, in the old days, I just shoot somebody and get rid of them, bury them, let the dogs eat the bones of the workers. But now, of course, political correctness has gone mad. I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Nothing is ever wasted.
Oh, I think that's enough of that, Mr. Duncan.
Okay, that's good. I know, that's good. Well, here we are. Lord Steve, or should I say Mr. Steve. Hello, Mr. Steve.
Do you like my cravat?
This looks amazing. I think, and I've said this before, that there is no look that suits you more than this. You look absolutely amazing.
I'm a bit on the hot side.
Don't worry about that.
Oh, Mr. Duncan, I'm going out on the land to help all the other people to do all sorts of things out there with the hunting and the fishing and the shooting.
Why do you sound like a pirate?
I don't know.
That's a pirate. So, Mr. Steve, but I think this looks amazing. I have this fantasy that where we go into the town, into Much Wenlock, and Mr. Steve walks around like this, and I follow him as if I'm his servant. And I'm sort of carrying his things and he's being really horrible to me.
Go on, boy.
Ooh. Okay, good. Ooh. I wasn't ready for that.
You're never ready.
But yes, I want to do that one day where we go into town and you're playing Lord Steve and I'm your servant following behind you and you're treating me like dirt. You're treating me really badly. You're saying, come along, servant. Come on, don't make me beat you again.
I was born into the wrong family and in the wrong era. I think, going back in the distant past, I think I come from sort of, you know, aristocracy, Mr. Duncan. Yeah. I think that's the only way I can explain the fact that this looks good on me.
So everyone's saying you look like Sherlock Holmes, but I don't think Sherlock Holmes...
I need a pipe.
Yes, I don't think he ever really looked... Although he used to wear one of these sometimes. He used to wear one.
Yes.
Now and again.
I'm just trying to look like some English toff.
Okay, don't spoil it. You've left out the best part.
What's that?
Well, that there.
Oh, you mean all this sort of loose change that I found lying around the house?
So this shows... No, don't get rid of it.
I'm not going to get rid of it, no. That's just, a bit of pocket money.
Oh, so that's what I wanted you to have when we came on camera.
Ah,
that's
right.
That's the whole point.
Oh, well, Mr. Duncan.
It's all pointless now.
That's my money, you know. You can't...
Look at all this money that Mr. Steve has got. Look at that. There's £50 notes and £10 notes. Look at all that.
Well, because I am wealthy, Mr. Duncan.
Wow. The only problem is...
Or am I rich?
The only problem is this is not real money. It's actually just paper. So this isn't even real money.
Aren't they your donations, Mr. Duncan? Your earnings from YouTube?
No, they're not, Steve. No, they're not my... Okay, then again, can I just stress, this is not real money.
Yes.
It's actually table napkins. So before anyone says, Mr. Duncan, you've got all that money. So this didn't go quite the way I planned. I wanted Mr. Steve to reveal himself with the money in his hand.
Well, you didn't tell me that. Anyway, I'll tell you what, Mr. Duncan. Because
anyway,
let me make a donation.
Yes, all right, Steve. Let's just not do that.
That's all right. Well, you see, things sometimes don't go according to plan, particularly if you don't rehearse them beforehand.
Well, of course we don't rehearse it. What's the point of that? This is real, by the way, not like all that other fake rubbish. There's loads of people now on YouTube and on Instagram and TikTok, and they have all these things that they're doing, and they make out that it's all real, but it isn't. It's all fake. It's all make-believe. But this is real. This here is real. Sometimes I wish it wasn't. And this is real as well. But this, of course, connects to today's subject. And we will be talking all about being rich. And that's Mr. Steve, of course.
Of course.
And being poor. And that's me. In fact, you might say that sometimes art imitates life very closely. And I think it is. But I think this look, I can't get over how great it looks on Mr. Steve. It really does suit you.
Anyway, Mr. Duncan, yes, are we coming on to sort of definitions later and things like that?
Yes, we're talking about being rich and being poor, living with wealth.
Yes.
And living in poverty. So I
you
always...
mean like us?
Yeah, well, not...
This is all an act, isn't it? Because some people, don't they? They like to pretend that they're rich and wealthy, and we'll come on to the difference between those two terms. Because it's a typical sort of British way of thinking of things that you might live in a very small house or a flat, but nobody sees that. And then when you go out and about, you've got a big Mercedes or a Jaguar or a BMW.
Yes, or maybe it's just some nice clothes.
Or some really nice clothes. You can go out, can't you, into the public areas, and people can see you, and they might think, oh, I bet they've got lots of money.
Yes.
Because you've dressed. You see, looking at me now, you think I was a wealthy landowner.
He's not.
But I'm not, you see, but I can pretend to be when I'm out in public.
Well, there is a phrase for that, Mr. Steve. We call it keeping up appearances.
Keeping up appearances.
I know there was a situation comedy. There was a very funny TV show called Keeping Up Appearances, but that is actually based on a real English phrase, which is where when you go out, when you step outside, you have to present a certain image to other people. So they will respect you, or maybe they will be envious of you. So we call it keeping up appearances, and it is a real thing. That's what people do. We go outside and we show ourselves. We want to project a certain image. But this also happens on the internet. There are lots of people pretending to be wealthy, pretending to have money, but in reality they don't. They don't have it. It's all just a sham. It's all fake. Sham. They're just pretending.
They're pretending, and they go back to it's all to do with the ego, isn't it? You want to, because, and of course, of social media, of television, advertising, sort of promotes this ideal lifestyle, which is one where everyone's spending lots of money. They've got big cars, nice houses and everything. And it's all to do with trying to create envy, which is horrible, and jealousy. Oh, my neighbour's got a new car, I've got to get one. This is what advertising has been doing since the 1950s, hasn't it? Been encouraging everybody to spend and look wealthy.
But I think it went on way before then. So there was always... And I suppose we can't talk about being wealthy and not being wealthy without talking about class. So the levels of society, this is something we've spoken about before, but the levels of society, so there always has been levels of society. And I suppose it was more obvious when there was only two classes. So you had the wealthy the gentry, as they call them, and then you had everyone else underneath.
Yes.
And they were all just living in poverty, squalor. They had nothing. And that was it. So the division was very clear.
And that's not only a few hundred years ago. I mean, we were all basically slaves to landowners.
Yes.
Paid very little wages, living very poorly. The vast majority of people, this is how they lived. So if you go back hundreds of years, most people were living in utter poverty. And as you say, Mr. Duncan, it was only a very, very few rich people at the top, the people that owned all the industries, that owned all the land. And everybody else was basically having to live in fear.
Yes. And you might even say, and I know this this is controversial, but you might say there was a lot of slavery around in this country with just those who had money treating those who were poor as almost like animals. I mean, that's it. I know it sounds awful and cruel, but that's exactly how it existed. So the gentry, the royalty, most of the people that owned the land, they owned most of the land, especially here. English land was owned by just a handful of people, and then everyone else was basically treated just like animals or cattle.
Yeah. Thankfully, with the growth of the middle classes, which of course started to happen mostly after certainly before the war, certainly after the Second World War, it accelerated because we pay all the taxes. The middle class people pay most of the taxes.
But running ahead again.
Running ahead.
Okay,
Mr. Duncan's in charge.
You'd have to keep doing that, brother. So we do have a lot of subjects, a lot of things to look at today.
We've got somebody new on today, Shah, who is pointing out that hello, Shah. That I think the British accent is difficult, but I'm going to come onto this channel and see what it's all about. So welcome to you.
You're welcome.
We won't make it difficult, and we don't normally speak poshly. This is just for today.
Well, no, this is now Steve's normal voice.
This is my normal. I don't normally speak like that.
No.
I don't normally speak, but. So you can pick up. It's very easy to understand the British accent.
And of course, there are captions as well. You can have live captions, so you can follow us, and you can also read what we're saying. Of course, there will be a slight delay underneath because the captions don't know what we're going to say. So they always take a couple of seconds to process.
Bimal Gurley from Nepal.
Hello, Nepal.
I think Nepal. I think there's been an awful plane crash in Nepal today. I think I'm right. Been on the news, so thoughts are with you. If I think I've got that right. I think it was Nepal. I read earlier. Yeah, I thought I'd mention that.
We have a lot of Nepalese people watching. Actually,
I think. Am I right? Has there been a very nasty plane crash in Nepal? So we're thinking about you with that. We've got a lot of people on today, Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
Lots going on in the live chat. It's all very exciting.
Well, yes, let's try and keep them, shall we?
Oh, okay. I'm going to have some gin, Mr. Duncan.
It's not really gin, it's water.
Because that's what toffs would drink. They would drink gin and tonic.
Yes.
Probably, particularly at this time of the day, it's a normal sort of gin and tonic time.
There has been quite a serious plane crash that's took place. It's happened in Nepal.
I thought so.
So if you are watching there, we are thinking of you. Lots of things happening around the world, a lot of bad stuff, but we are here to try and put a lovely smile on your face. That's the reason why we're here, to help you with your English, but also to put a smile on your face. And I hope we will achieve that at some point. Mr. Steve, I like looking at words.
Of course.
I love words because, well, basically, that's why we're here. Are you, and I think maybe the answer to this question, by the way, is yes. Mr. Steve, are you a
stickler?
Stickler.
A stickler.
Mr. Steve, are you a stickler?
I can be. I think I can be. Yes, Mr. Duncan. I definitely think I can be a stickler.
And I know what you're going to say, Mr. Duncan. What does that word mean? Please tell us. That is your job, you silly man. I will. A stickler is a person who likes things done in a certain way, or maybe they always follow the rules to the actual letter. So they will not divert away from the way in which something's done. They are very fussy also about the way other people do things. So a stickler, a person who is very fussy, they often want things done in a particular way. And I think sometimes, not always, I'm going to be fair to you here, I'm going to be fair, sometimes Mr. Steve is a stickler.
Yes, because sometimes you just have to get things right. So, yeah, if it's to do with, for example, learning something, do you want to get every little detail right? You know, if you're learning English, for example, you could probably get by with average sort of English speaking, but do you want to get it absolutely correctly right? If someone is to correct your English in an essay, every spelling would have to be right, every punctuation, every bit of grammar. Are you a stickler for detail, which is a common way to use that expression? Or do you just sort of not worry so much about the little details? As long as it looks all right as an overall thing. So like, you could be decorating a room, and you might just slap the paint all over the room, and you might, that looks all right. Yes. But if you look closely, it might not be very well done up to the ceiling, for example, or you might leave patches.
So there might be flaws.
Overlaps over the door frames, something like that.
So when we talk about a stickler, they often insist almost to a point where they are obsessed with getting those things exactly right or following the rule. And a very interesting question from Christina: is a stickler a good thing or a bad thing? A good person or a bad person? Well, I suppose in some situations, especially where safety is involved, maybe if you are on a building site and there's lots of dangerous equipment, and you are working in an environment where there might be an accident and you might be injured or worse, I suppose in those situations it is good to be a stickler.
Yes.
You have to follow those rules precisely.
Otherwise, there could be a nasty accident. If you work, for example, in a solicitor's office, for example, then if you're going to court, if you're a lawyer or somebody like that, then you would have to naturally be a stickler for detail, because if you miss out those little details, you might lose a case. And as Mr. Duncan says, if you're working in health and safety, well, you have to know everything has to be looked at in minute detail if you're building something. So it can be a very positive thing when used in that way. But if it was used in your personal life, for example, your appearance must be perfect. Being a stickler is very time consuming.
Yes.
It takes a lot of time.
And I think it can also be a disorder if you take it too far. You become so fussy and everything has to be perfect. That person, maybe here's another one, Steve. You are trying to find the love of your life. You're trying to find a partner.
Yes, I am.
Would it be a good thing to be a stickler?
Yes.
I think it might be a deal breaker. I think you will find it much harder to find that person that you want to spend your life with if you are a stickler, if you insist on things being perfect and correct and right, and maybe that person will never be enough for you. Because
I know, yes,
don't say what you're about to say.
Well, I can just say I know people like that. I know a particular person who has never got married because they always find something wrong.
Yes,
that's probably slightly different, but it certainly is. They've got a tick list of things, and if those person don't mate up to all those criteria, then they reject them as a partner. So yes, it can be very harmful.
The other thing is it might be unattractive to another person as well. So you might meet someone, a young, handsome man, maybe, very similar to me. And oh dear.
Yes.
And you might find that person very attractive. You might even like their personality, but then you realise that person is incredibly fussy about things. That maybe if you're holding a cup in your hand, they take it off you because they want you to put it in a certain place. Things like that. Please don't put your hot cup of tea on my lovely table. You have to put it somewhere else. And those sorts of things. Or take your shoes off at the door when you arrive. Take your shoes off, please. Could you please take your shoes off? I'm very fussy. I don't want any dirt on my carpet.
Yeah.
So those sorts of things.
Well, or if you were... Some people, even when they're cleaning the house, they just everything has to be cleaned in the minutest detail. Because you know what it's like when you're doing housework. You can sort of have a rough sort of vacuum around, can't you? But you might leave the dust on the lampshades or something like that. But a stickler for detail would literally go over every square inch, and then it can become a disorder. But as some people have pointed out here, for example, if you are an accountant, Gosia says you have to be a stickler. Yes, because you can miss important things. If you're into chemistry, Christina says, chemistry teacher, I must be a stickler.
Yes.
Because if you get the amounts wrong, or the temperature's wrong, you could have an explosion or something could go terribly wrong.
So I think where safety is concerned, and this is maybe in a professional field, a certain thing that has to be done in a certain way, you will always find that you have to be a stickler. However, in general life, in society, maybe in a social situation, it might be a little annoying or even off-putting. So you might find it very difficult to form relationships or keep someone if you are very fussy.
Claudia says her father's a stickler.
Oh.
And that creates a few issues. Yes, because maybe he wants to be dressed in a certain way, or he wants his food presented in a certain way, or things like that. Whereas, other people might just be quite easy. Opposite of a stickler would be someone who's quite sort of relaxed and easygoing and isn't too bothered about the details. But that's fine in your personal life. But maybe in a professional,
you might see that they are carefree.
Yes,
carefree. They're not really over fussy, or in some cases they are not fussy at all, which also can be a bad thing as well. So you can be too careful, but also you might be very careless. So you might be a person who doesn't care about anything or the way things are done. And those types of people often will meet some sort of difficult situation, or maybe some catastrophe, or maybe some injury of some sort. So in between, in general life, I think it's good to be wary of how things are done. But I think in life it can be quite negative to be a stickler.
Well, it takes up a lot of your time, doesn't it?
It does.
And it can become a bit of a disorder. But yeah, it's a common phrase, she's a stickler for detail, or he's a stickler for detail. And, it can be positive or negative. I think it's normally seen as a positive trait.
Yes.
Particularly in the work environment.
I think so. Professional environment, anything professional.
Yes.
I have just been accused of being a stickler by Christina. Oh, no, sorry, Francesca. Francesca says, Mr. Duncan, I think you are a stickler. Yes, I think you're right. And I'm willing sometimes to put my hand up and say I am, especially with this. you may notice sometimes I am sometimes cruel. I'm accused of being cruel to you because I'm a stickler with this.
The sound.
The sound and the vision and the colour and the lighting. I'm incredibly fussy about that. I take this very seriously, and sometimes maybe to an obsessive level. But I want this to be good for you. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to be able to hear us perfectly and see us clearly and enjoy this whole experience. So yes, I am a stickler with this.
Yes. Vitas is in hospital. Says
Vitas?
It's not a joke.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Well, sorry to hear you're in hospital, Vitas.
We heard you were unwell, but we didn't want to talk about it on here because quite often we see people's health as a private thing. So if you want to say what it is, you can, but we are not going to talk about it. We are sorry that you are in hospital again, Vitas, but you are in a good place.
But we're very glad that you can see us today, and I hope that it is giving you some cheer and making you feel better and taking your mind off.
At least I am.
Problems.
At least I don't know about Mr. Steve, really, when you think about it.
Yes. Yes, so, are rich people sticklers, do you think? Wealthy people?
I think rich people can be either, because I've met wealthy people in the past, and we've met. I remember that time. Do you remember the time we were in, where was it? Turkey. I think it was in Turkey. We met some people, and they just built, not bought, they had built their own villa. So immediately, what do you think?
They've got money.
They've got money.
They're loaded.
If someone builds their own villa and it's right by the sea and they have the most amazing views, you know those people are quite wealthy. But I was surprised because we were both surprised because we met them, chatted to them, and they suddenly invited us round to their villa. They said, "Would you like to come round?" And we said, "Oh, okay." And I don't know what they thought of us, but I felt quite, what's the word? I want to choose my word carefully here. I felt quite, I want to say honoured, but that sounds too much the other way. But I thought it was quite nice that they met us and they just invited us round. And we found that they just bought a telescope, but neither of them knew how to set it up, which surprised me, because your natural assumption, Steve, would be those people are wealthy, they've built their own villa, they're clearly successful people, but they don't know how to set up a telescope.
This is a typical trait of people that have a lot of spare money. They, on a whim, they will go out and buy something like a telescope because the money means nothing to them. Whereas for average people, if you wanted a telescope, you would probably have to save up for it, and then you would probably certainly know a lot about how to use it. But this couple had they were a lovely couple.
They were, but
they clearly just thought, I want a telescope.
Yes, and they bought it, but it just happened to be exactly the same telescope that we had at the time. So we knew exactly how to set it up. So we said, we know this, we know how to do this.
Because,
so they just let us do it in their house, their lovely, nice, newly built villa. And there we were, Mr. Steve and myself, opening the box, taking all the pieces out and constructing this telescope. And we did a very good job of it as well.
I think we impressed them.
In fact, do you remember what we looked at?
I remember saving up. Was it Uranus?
No, we didn't look at Uranus.
Okay.
We looked at Pluto, if you remember.
I don't think it was Pluto.
Wasn't it?
No, it probably was Saturn or Jupiter.
Wasn't.
It wouldn't have been Pluto. Pluto's too far away to see.
Sorry, my mistake. I'm wrong. Silly me. It was Venus.
Venus
was on show. It was very clear. And
Venus was her name.
We actually, so we managed to set the telescope up, and we managed to find Venus, and they were blown away by it. But we were quite surprised, because I would assume that they would know how to do all of those things, but they didn't. They didn't have a clue. So it was quite humbling, actually, for us, and I think also for them as well. So it just shows, doesn't it? Sometimes you might meet wealthy people, but they're not all arseholes. Some of them are really nice people.
No, you often find this, though, don't you? When people have a lot of money and a lot of spare money and they don't have any debts, then maybe they've been successful in business and the business has gone very well and they've made lots and lots of money. They've got all this money, but they don't know what to do with it. So let's have a villa in Spain. Or in this case, it was in Turkey. I fancy a telescope. Let's just, without, they don't have to think about the money when they're buying it. I mean, when we bought this telescope a long time ago, it was quite a considerable purchase because I've always been interested in stargazing. But for them, it was probably just like going out and buying, a new pair of shoes or a week's shopping. It's of no consequence if you've got lots of money.
So they suddenly decided one day to buy a telescope because they had this lovely villa and they wanted to be able to look out. But they didn't realise that, actually, I think, the other thing as well, Steve, I think they bought the wrong telescope. So what I think they wanted to buy was an optical telescope, which has the lenses inside, and it does that.
Yes.
But the one that they bought was a reflector telescope, which uses a mirror. And so everything you look at is upside down. So I put just the thought that I had at the time, I remember thinking, I think you've bought the wrong telescope.
Yes, because they knew nothing about stargazing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
But I think they just wanted to look at the views.
I think they wanted to look at the views. But and as you're right, they should have bought an optical telescope.
Yes. You don't use an astronomy telescope for looking at the boats going by or the people on the beach.
No, exactly.
You use an optical one which uses lenses. So it's a bit like, it looks very very similar to the lens or the lens on a camera. So it's lots of lenses together.
A lot of people have Tomek and also somebody else has picked up the fact that this is a song. Christina was Bananarama.
Well, that's not the one. The original one was by somebody else.
Yes, but that's the one everybody remembers, isn't it?
Yes. She's got it, oh baby, she's got it. She is my Venus, she is my darling. She's ever so nice.
My desire. Something like that.
Yeah,
anyway,
something like that.
Yeah, but it was quite a catchy song.
But the song itself is very old. I can't remember who did it now, but it was actually a rock song. It was sort of with lots of guitars and lots of, I want to say the Animals. Was it the Animals who had a hit with Venus? I'm sure someone now, Steve, is going to Google, and they are Googling Venus original song, and they will now tell us what it was. But I think it was the Animals. Please be the Animals. Please be the Animals.
The only one that anybody remembers is the Bananarama version.
Please make me look good on the internet. Please. Was it the Animals?
Shocking Blue, says Tomek. Christina says yes. But anyway, I mean, these sort of things, for people of my status, I'm not really concerned with that. That sort of trivia. I didn't Google it. Okay, never mind. Yes, so rich and poor. Shall we talk about the different? When you're going to start getting onto your terms, Mr. Duncan?
My terms?
Yes, your when we start looking at the different words.
Today's topic. We're looking in a moment, you see, but
yes.
we have other things to talk about.
Right,
you see.
fine, yes.
Now, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we were talking about having plastic surgery, weren't we?
Yes.
And we were talking about celebrities and even ourselves. I was considering having some plastic surgery, but instead I've decided just to lose some weight and see what happens there. Maybe my face, maybe all the skin on my face will get sucked back in and I will look like a teenager again. But
maybe not a teenager.
Yes. Anyway, that's not the subject I'm talking about. Do you remember in the 1980s there were some great talented singers around? We had Boy George, Culture Club.
Shirley Bassey.
Well, Shirley Bassey, yeah, okay, Steve. That's just nothing to do. Shirley Bassey's been around. It was her birthday last week.
I know.
86.
Yeah.
Can you believe Shirley
Still
Bassey
going.
is now at 86? Incredible.
She looks fabulous.
And anyway, talking of looking fabulous, who remembers Madonna? Madonna was a huge presence in the 1980s. I admired Madonna. I always admired the way she was able to reinvent her image again and again, which I think is very important if you are in the music industry. You have to somehow keep making yourself fresh. However, Madonna is not as young as she used to be. And I was rather horrified the other day to see a photograph of Madonna. Here she is.
You're joking.
That is Madonna.
You are joking.
I am not joking. What the hell has happened to Madonna?
Well, the same thing that happens to a lot of celebrities. They want to stay looking young because they think that's what's going to keep them in the public eye.
That's not young. That's just like a waxwork that's been dropped.
Dear. That's very sad, isn't it?
Isn't that just awful?
When somebody thinks that they've got to do that.
So it looks as if Madonna has had lots of plastic surgery, but I think a lot of people admired her, but not so much now. I think she's become a little bit of a joke in the celebrity world.
Well, the problem is everyone's got their sell-by date.
Yes.
There's very few people who can go on and on and on and be successful for decade after decade after decade. The Rolling Stones, they're still going. Mick Jagger, he's still relevant. Tom Jones is. Shirley Bassey is.
Yes.
But Madonna, for some reason, has not been somebody that has managed to survive after. But when did she the last 20 years you haven't seen much of Madonna,
not since the 2000s, but she did have quite a few phases. A lot of people don't realize she had many more phases than people actually remember, because she did become very big once again in the 1990s when she came back, and she had some very interesting concepts with her image and also the music. Talking of which, that was one of her big hits later on. Music was a very good song. I think that was in the 1990s, late 1990s. It may have even been the early 2000s. I remember that one. That was a very good piece of music. But yes, Madonna has gone through a lot of changes, but now it appears that maybe she's gone a little bit too far. Just a little bit. And this is the subject we talked about. And I couldn't believe it when I saw the picture. I thought, no, that's not Madonna. No, definitely, but it is. And I feel a little sad because of it. But some people do grow old gracefully. Mick Jagger is a good example.
Yeah.
He does look like a walnut that's been pickled overnight. But it doesn't matter, because I think people respect him for that, even though he's had tons of health problems. I think he had open heart surgery a couple of years ago.
See, I think that's the secret. The people that have the longevity, people that carry on for year after year after year, are the people that don't keep changing their image. So, Mick Jagger's never changed his image. He's Mick Jagger. He's always been Mick Jagger. He's just got older. Shirley Bassey's always been the same. Tom Jones has always been the same.
I don't like Tom Jones.
No, but the people that, if you keep changing your image all the time, people don't know who you are. So you then go out. So I think that's what's happened to Madonna. She's gone out of fashion because nobody knows who she is now. But certain artists who stick with the same image but just keep going, they might go in and out of fashion, but they'll come back, they'll fade away, they'll come back again. Yes. And I think you get more respect that way.
Can I just say it's also about popular culture. So in popular culture, if you want to stay in popular culture, you have to keep changing your image and your style, because people become so bored. They become fickle. It's a bit like being on YouTube one day you are the cock of the walk. You are the biggest person around. You are showing your plumes to everyone, and everyone thinks you're the greatest thing ever. And then the following week you are a feather duster. And that's it. That's the world. So if you're trying to make it big anywhere, especially in show business, and you might describe this as show business, I'm not sure if you would, but I think it is a type of show business, being on YouTube and doing this. So I think you do have to keep changing, or else you get left behind.
Yes, but, like Ozzy Osbourne, he's never changed. He's got the same image. He's still there.
Well, he's still... yes, but don't do drugs, kids. Look at Ozzy Osbourne now. If you want to see the effects of a lifetime of drink and drugs, Ozzy Osbourne. Look at him now. Don't do it. Don't do it, kids.
I think if you want constant celebrity and constant attention, then yes, you've got to change your image. But if you're prepared to keep going in and out of fashion, but stay the same, then you'll eventually, and then you get lots of respect in your older age, don't you? Everybody respects Tom Jones now, Shirley Bassey. They might not be Mick Jagger, they might not be as high profile as they used to be, but because they've got older and they've just carried on doing the same thing for so many years, they've now got respect. Whereas I'm not sure if Madonna's got respect.
Well, I think later she became a bit of a joke because of her romantic entanglements, and then she started saying things and doing things, and I think in over time she became a little bit of a joke in the music industry. So that can happen as well. I suppose what it proves is sometimes you do have to be careful what you do and what you say as well, the choices you make. So they can have big repercussions, I suppose. We have to accept that time never stops, says Christina. You are right. Nitram says, don't buy drugs, become a pop star, and they give you them for free.
Do you know,
I'm not sure if... No, that's not good advice.
No one's offered us any free drugs yet. Do you know, we noticed something very interesting the other day. We watched an interview by a sort of a comedian in America, didn't we, talking about drugs. And he's probably, I would say it is late 50s, something like that, early 60s.
No, he's only in his 50s.
In his 50s, but he looks a lot older. Yes. So he's a sort of... I won't say who he is, but I don't suppose it matters whether we say or not, because you can see his videos. He's publicly talked about it.
Well, I don't think he hides the fact that he likes drink and drugs.
Yes, but the thing is, he's known for sort of drinking and smoking a lot on stage. His comedy act is very much been based around that. But he said he'd never taken drugs ever in his life, really. And in America now, in most parts of America, drugs are now legal.
The US.
In the US. So, because it was made legal, he just thought he'd try it. And now he's doing his shows drugged up on marijuana. He did this interview and he was clearly stoned out of his brain. And it occurred to us that, making drugs legal has now caused somebody who never used to take drugs to take drugs. Yeah. Well, so if he's doing it, maybe lots of other people are doing it. Well, that can't be a good thing.
The interesting thing was he started it in lockdown. So he said he was so bored in lockdown, he decided to try new things. And one of them was drugs, hard drugs. So it's some people take up painting,
but he probably,
or they learn a musical instrument.
But he said he probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the fact that it's now legal, because he just thought, well, I'll go and buy some and try it and see what it's all about. Yes, and now he's hooked on marijuana.
Yes. Well, there we go. I mean, we're not approving or anything of it, but it is interesting.
Tom X said he's going to do some space cake. That's what we're going to do when we all meet up. Okay. I'm up for it, Mr. Duncan.
Well, first of all, I have no idea what space cake is.
I'm guessing it's sort of drugs inside a cake.
Okay.
Because that's what you can have marijuana that way. You can smoke it, or you can have it in food, can't you?
Darius says Ozzy Osbourne is 74, but no, the drugs aren't good because you haven't seen the state of him. He can't even speak anymore. He just sort of so no. I don't think long-term drug use is a good idea. Hey, Mr. Steve, something exciting to do now. I bet you're excited. That? You might have to stand up slightly over there, just a little bit, just shuffle slightly, because we're now going to witness history being made.
History?
You know, a few days ago, the UK attempted to launch a satellite into space, but unfortunately it didn't work very well, did it? It was a slight disappointment.
We were trying to beat Elon Musk and NASA.
Yes.
We were trying to outdo them.
Yes. Well, in fact, what we were doing, we were trying to beat Europe, but apparently Europe's had a space race since the 1970s, a space industry.
So who we got? We've got Virgin, haven't we?
Well, they have to put it on the back of an airplane.
Virgin Space, Branson.
Yes. Well, are those just random words?
What's his first name?
Richard.
Richard Branson. He's got a Virgin Space or something. It's called a company, hasn't he?
Well, that's his next thing. Because he stopped running trains. So now instead he's going to launch spaceships. Anyway, it didn't work. It crashed into the sea. So today we are going to launch our own rocket into space.
Okay.
And this rocket, we've decided to call it the US Brexit.
The US Brexit.
Or should I say the UK Brexit. So this lovely rocket, and you will see it in a minute on the launching pad. We're going to do a countdown as well. We're going to launch it right now, live on YouTube. So I hope you will enjoy this, a historic moment, as Mr. Steve and myself enter the space race with our UK Brexit rocket. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Mr. Duncan.
Here we go then. So, countdown coming up now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Another British space failure.
We tried. Well, at least ours got higher than theirs.
Were there any satellites on board?
There was no people on board. It was just a test.
Because there were several satellites on board Richard Branson's rocket.
Mm.
I mean, you know, it looked a bit pitiful, didn't it? I suppose, I don't know what he was trying to do. Imagine all the work that had gone into those satellites and then they all crashed into the sea.
Well, what about ours? Ours crashed as well. And that was our lovely Brexit rocket. So I suppose, in a way, it's quite suitable that it crashed to the ground when you think about it. Because, let's face it, Brexit has also crashed to the ground.
Oh, Mr. Duncan, that's a very controversial subject.
It is very controversial. Please don't click away. Please don't complain. Please don't complain to YouTube and say, Mr. Duncan said something about Brexit. I like Brexit, and he said it's bad. Take him off. Take him off YouTube. Mr. Steve is looking lovely today. Do you know why? Well, you look lovely every day. Let's face it. Who could not resist this chiselled chin, this noble face? Look at that. Turn around. Right round. Come on, let's have a profile. Look at who could not love that? That is a face that launched 1,000 ships. Very noble, lovely, noble nose. That's one way of putting it.
I'm in charge. Landed gentry here.
So that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about being rich. That's Mr. Steve.
Yes.
He looks rich.
I'm loaded.
And poor. And that's me, of course. Because, well, first of all, I am poor. And the second thing is I came from a poor family. I'm just a poor boy from a poor family. What? Sparing his life from my monstrosity. Easy come, easy go. Will you let me go? Hishmillah. No, we will not let you go.
Queen!
Sorry?
Is that Queen?
Yes, it is.
We're referencing lots of songs here today, Mr.
We
Duncan.
are.
Bananarama.
I'm hoping today we will get a copyright strike, at least 2, and it will be lovely. Today we are looking at a very interesting subject. We're looking at... I think I've done really well today with these images. There's me. Sorry, where are we? I hate doing this. And there's Mr. Steve. So Mr. Steve...
I think...
Mr. Steve is Lord Snooty. So that's Steve. He's rich. And over there, that's me. And look, I've got my little begging bowl, and I want some more porridge. Please, sir, can I have some more porridge?
No.
Oh, it's not very nice, is it? So unfortunately...
This is all just... This isn't reality. We're acting here. I'm not somebody who's wealthy, and Mr. Duncan isn't.
Okay. I think people have... You know what, Steve? I think people have realised that. After watching us for many, many weeks and months and years, I think they know.
Well, they might not.
They know that we are definitely not rich. We are £1 million short of being millionaires.
Well, no, that's a bit of an exaggeration.
Anyway,
yes.
Well, we are.
Rich and poor.
So when we talk about people being rich, having money, there are many words we can use, Mr. Steve.
There are.
There are. You can say that a person is rich. They are a rich person, maybe a rich man or a rich woman. And of course, there are rich ladies around. I can think of at least 2 wealthy women. Can you think of 2 wealthy women?
The lady that wrote the Harry Potter books.
Yes, the lady.
I can't remember her name.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. She's very wealthy.
She's very, very wealthy.
The Queen, of course, was very, very wealthy. Oh, you mean living?
Well, they can be living.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, they can be living. They can
say.
They can be dead. I don't know what point being a rich dead person is, though, because let's face it, the money is not going to do anything for you. But yes, the Queen of England, when she was alive, she was the richest woman in the world, besides Jeff Bezos' wife, because apparently she instantly became one of the wealthiest women in the world when she divorced Jeff. So when Jeff Bezos and his wife, I can't remember her name, is it Margaret? Is it Maggie, Margaret, Paula, Claire, Susan, Jane? Is it Anne? Is it Mary?
We don't know and we don't care.
No. Well, I care.
Well, yeah.
It would sound really good if I got it right.
Amit says, hello, Amit. We thought in the UK everyone is affluent and loaded. No, that is not the case.
It is not the case.
Most people are not, but haven't got lots of money at all.
No.
There are lots and lots of poor people.
Yeah.
It depends what you define as poor, of course.
Well, that's what we're going to look at later.
Can I at this point mention, are you going to talk about the difference between rich and wealthy?
Yes.
Right, oh good.
But you can talk about it as well because you've made some notes.
I've made some notes.
Can you believe it? This is how impressed I am today.
I'm prepared.
Mr. Steve has made notes.
I've made notes because there is a difference. There is a difference.
So you can be rich. You can be moneyed. Some people might describe you as affluent. Not to be confused with effluent.
You've got to get that right.
Affluent is wealthy. Effluent is sewerage.
Unless, of course, you've made all your money in sewerage, yes. In which case you are effluent and affluent.
Yes, you've become affluent from affluence.
Yes, but most sewage farms are run by local councils, so it's difficult to see how anyone would make money out of it.
I'm glad you've
in the UK.
I'm glad you've cleared that.
But you can make money from muck, can't you?
You can. Well, you can make money from anything.
Well, that's it. People that, like somebody who owns a scrap yard.
Yeah, rubbish. You can make money from rubbish.
Muck and money are often quite well linked together.
Actually, it's muck and brass.
Muck and brass. But yeah, you can. People can make money from all sorts of things.
Yeah. So I think any situation, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, we saw it actually during the COVID lockdown for over 2 years, and lots of people were making money during that time. They were selling certain things, certain products, and they were becoming millionaires because of it. And of course, millionaires became even richer during that time because they were also finding those things that they could sell during the coronavirus lockdowns. So rich, you can be moneyed. That's a very strange one, isn't it? Moneyed.
Moneyed, yes.
But we do use that.
Bit of an old-fashioned word, probably, but we can use that, yes.
You might be affluent, and as Mr. Steve mentioned earlier, we have the word wealthy here, but of course wealth as a state of being is something that can be defined in different ways.
Yes.
So do you want to mention that now?
I will, yes. So people often use the word rich, and I've noticed people have used here that word. King Charles is rich, says Francesca. Christina says Rishi Sunak, he's rich. But the actual definition of rich, the difference between that and wealthy, is that if you're rich, it means that you've got a high income and you spend lots of money. So you like buying all the nice things. You like having a big house, a big car. You like to show your wealth. But a rich person could well have lots of debt. They could be using their high income to purchase all these expensive things, and they could actually be quite indebted. And if they stop getting their income, they might suddenly become very poor. So a rich person is somebody who has lots of money because they've got a high income, but they're probably spending most of it on luxury goods, let's put it that way. But someone who's wealthy, the definition of someone who's wealthy is that they've got lots of money and they don't have many debts, if any debts, and that they tend to invest their money into things that will grow in value in time. So they will put their money into property. They will put it into stocks and shares. And that's really the difference. Someone who is rich has the ability to spend lots of money. Someone who is wealthy accumulates assets and increases their wealth over time. And that's the difference. So you would describe Prince Charles as wealthy. You would describe Rishi Sunak and his wife as wealthy because they have money tied up in property, in investments, and even if they stop earning money from their regular job, so if he wasn't a prime minister anymore, it wouldn't affect him in any way. Prince Charles, all the money is tied up in property, in shares, in investments. They are wealthy, and they are then passing that on. Generational wealth, they call it, when you then have enough money to pass it on to your children.
So it's a little bit like having a certain amount of money, then you put that money into things, and then that just carries on generating money. It's almost like having your own money machine. The money is just flying out of the machine.
Yeah, so you start on the scale of people with money. You're poor, then you sort of average income, then you become rich, and then if you're clever, you become wealthy because you invest that money.
So that's interesting.
And you don't need to work then to get an income.
Yes, that's interesting to look at that slight difference between a rich person and a wealthy person. So there is a difference. And of course, on the surface, we will often judge a person as being rich. We often don't use the word wealthy. We often use the word rich. For some reason, when you see a person who appears to have money, we often say, Oh, they must be rich.
Yes, you can describe them as rich, but if you know that they've got a lot of property or a lot of investments, then you can use the word wealthy.
Yes.
Wealthy is what you're trying to achieve, what you want to attain. You don't have to work anymore in a job in order to be able to enjoy life. Whereas a rich person is still got to work. So a rich person is something like a doctor.
I don't want to explain it again.
Yeah,
We've already explained it, Steve. I've got to move on because we have about 15 of these. So there are also slang terms we can use. So informal ways of describing a person with money. We can say that they are well-heeled. I love that one. Well-heeled. And I think it just refers to the fact they look wealthy, they look rich, if you will, and they are a person who has lots of disposable income as well, or maybe money that they can spend without worrying too much about it. Well-heeled. Here's one Mr. Steve used. Loaded.
Loaded.
A person, they're loaded.
Just means they've got lots of money.
Mm.
Imagine a heavy load of something. So the impression you're giving is that they've got so much money that they're weighed down with all this money. It could be, they're loaded. It's just an expression people use. I think they're loaded.
Yes, it's a good one though.
Yes.
And you might also describe a person, a rich person or a rich family, as rolling in it. They are rolling in money.
Yes.
It's great.
Because we've all seen those film clips where somebody's emptied a pile of money onto the bed and they're rolling around in the money on the bed. Maybe they've just robbed a bank.
They're throwing it like confetti. It's great. Rolling in money.
It's often used, you often use that phrase, and it's got a sort of used with a sort of a jealous tone behind it. They're rolling in it. Or they're loaded.
Yes, well, if there's one thing that being wealthy does, it makes other people just a little bit envious.
And often wealthy people don't show off their money. Rich people often show it. People who have got... No, they often don't. They often, maybe dress down a bit because they don't want people to know they've got the money.
Yes.
Lots of people, rich landowners... You might bump. They might have the only way you might know that they're wealthy is the accent in their voice,
and the fact that they're driving a Ferrari.
No, well, you see, that sort of outward show of wealth is often that's what rich people do, or if somebody's
wealthy
come
people,
into money.
Wealthy people do as well.
Yes, but I'm just
celebrities. Wealthy celebrities are always, literally always. Showing what they have.
Well, yes, because that's part of the image.
But they're wealthy.
Yes.
They're incredibly wealthy. They have their own empires.
Some of them do, yes. Certainly.
Anyway, moving on, we have the opposite. So this is mine now. You are poor. You are broke. You are destitute. Destitute. Not the other word. Destitute. Penniless. Impoverished. You are skint. That's a good one. A lot of people will say that they've spent all of their salary for the month and now they are skint, and maybe sometimes they have to borrow some money off another person. So to be skint, you are in the gutter. In the gutter, you have nothing, you have no money, you are needy. I think that's quite a good one, needy. So maybe you need help, or you are in need of assistance or in need of some sort of support. And the one that a lot of people use even now, in fact, we're using it more and more these days because there are a lot of people who are having to go to certain places to get food and to get support. They are on the breadline.
Yes.
On the breadline means you are having to go somewhere to pick up food for free because you can't afford to buy your own food. You are on the breadline.
Yes, typically you would use the word like broke. Oh, I'm broke. Can you lend me a £5? You would use that in that kind of, or You would tend to see, if you need to borrow some money off somebody, you say, "Okay, can you lend me some money? I'm broke." It just means you've run out of money, and you probably can't borrow any because you've probably over borrowed before. And or broke and skint can be used sort of interchangeably, can't they?
So you're broke and you are skint.
I get paid next week, but I'm running out of money. I'm skint. Can you just lend me 10 quid to go and buy some petrol for my car? If you're in the gutter, it probably means you've lost everything, even your home.
Yes. So you might be living on the streets, or you might be homeless, or you might be looking for a place to stay.
Destitute.
You are literally out on the street, and we often say in the gutter.
Destitute is the same thing. It means you haven't got anywhere to live.
So these are terms. I think, of course, it's worth mentioning that there is a line of poverty. Now, in this country, you are seeing lots of people going to places where they have to pick up food because they can't afford to buy any food. We call them food banks here. So it's not a bank that keeps money, it's a bank that has food, and they give it to those who are in need. And that's here in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and we have food banks around the area. There is one not far from here. Did you know that, Steve?
No.
No, there's at least one, maybe even two, not far away from here.
Shall I go there dressed like this and see if I can get some food?
Well, that would be a bit cruel, wouldn't it, really?
But the problem is people are abusing food banks in this country. There's a lot of people that go to them that probably can afford to buy food. They've got a house, they've got internet, but they're going there just to pick up, because nobody's really asking you any questions.
Well, I think you do have to prove that you're claiming support or something. So you have to be on welfare to be able to use a food bank.
Yes, I'm not sure how well they check that.
Anyway,
yes. And poor, of course, is a relative term, isn't it? Because people, we've often discussed this, haven't we? People can describe themselves as poor in this country, but what does poor mean to them? In the UK, poor might mean that they can't, they might still have a house, they might still have food, but they might not be able to afford a car, for example.
Yes.
Or whereas if you go to other countries, like in Africa or other very poor countries, poor to them means that they just haven't even got anywhere to live. They're starving. It's a very relative term. I think a lot of people in what we would describe as poor countries would look at people in this country that describe themselves as poor and think that they were actually quite well off.
Yes.
So it's a relative thing. You're comparing yourself to other people in the same area that you're living in. But, if you, a lot of people can't afford a car and they might describe themselves as poor, but they might have lots of food, they might have a house, they might have a job, but they don't perceive themselves as having enough.
Well, a good example, of course, might be a person who has a house. They live in a house, they have a house, they can afford to heat the house, but they might not have all of the luxury items that other people have. They might not have a big screen TV. They might not have high-speed internet. They might not have a car, or maybe their car is old, and they might describe themselves as being poor, even though they have relative comfort. The things that they don't have are the things that they feel that they are missing out on or they lack. And I suppose in this country there are a lot of people who moan about having hard lives or living in poverty, when in fact they don't live in poverty. It's an exaggeration. So I think it does happen.
Yes, it's relative. I mean, my mother, if you go back even in this country, a couple of generations, people growing up then just only had enough money just to be able to buy food and keep a roof over your head. Not many people had more than that. So my mother often laughs at people who describe themselves as poor, because compared to what it was normal to grow up that way. Most people were like that. You didn't own your own house. You rented it off somebody, and you would just be having enough money, maybe just living from one week to the next.
So this is it. Well, as I said, my background, my family, we did not have much money. I remember how much my father used to earn because sometimes I would see the wage slip. So I would see how much he got, and it was always shocking. And we never had any money. We were always just slightly behind everything. So any money that we did borrow, and we had to borrow money as well, we had to pay it back with some very strange interest rates over a period of time. And we're not talking huge amounts of money, Mr. Steve. Sometimes it was maybe £70 or £80. We would borrow that just so we could pay maybe one of the bills or buy food. So it wasn't for luxury items. It was just so we could survive for another 2 or 3 weeks or another month. And quite often we would have people knocking on the door after money. And we used to all hide and make sure no one saw us. So that's a taste of my life.
Chintra says, hello, Mr. Duncan and Mr. Steve. It's a very good subject you're talking about today.
Thank you.
Well, you've got Palmyra to thank for that, because it was Palmyra last week. Is Palmyra on today? I haven't seen
Yes.
it. Oh, right. It was Palmyra that suggested that we do a subject on this.
Yes, so here we are with it.
Yeah, and it was a very good suggestion. So feel free to give suggestions as well if you wish us to cover any particular subjects
Moving
in
on.
future lessons.
So we're going to go through these quickly because we are running out of time. Wealth can be gained. You can gain wealth. And of course, you can lose wealth. So wealth can be gained and it can also be lost. You become wealthy. You become bankrupt. You lose your money. Maybe if you put your money into things that are perhaps foolish. And let's face it, a lot of people these days are putting their money into places where they should not. I am, of course, talking about cryptocurrency, things like that don't actually exist in the real world as such. They're not things that are tangible, but people are putting their money into it and then realising that their money just vanishes into thin air. It just disappears. So you can become wealthy, you can become bankrupt.
Or broke. Yes, if you're bankrupt, it means even the bank won't lend you any money because you've got yourself into so much debt. Of course, debt is a big problem around the world because most countries around the world have never had so much debt at the moment. So it's a big problem with interest rates going up at the moment.
I think it's fair to say that debt is a necessary evil.
It is, but of course at the moment, and debt can be very useful because if it wasn't for debt, most people would never own their own home because if you had to save up enough money, it would take you probably 30 years to save up enough money to buy a house outright. So banks lending you money to purchase a house, and also businesses, of course, have to borrow money because that's how they often start up, and then their business becomes successful and they can pay the loan back, etc. But if the business goes wrong, or then you owe all this money, it's like if you've bought a house with a mortgage and you've overstretched yourself a bit too much and you lose your job, you can't afford to pay the mortgage, you might go bankrupt. And it's always a risk. And it depends on how much risk you're willing to take on board.
Yes. So these days banks will lend money, but they are a little more wary. They might be described as sticklers for the money that you might have or whether you are able to pay that money back.
Palmyra makes a good point here. I think she made that earlier as well, that a lot of people are slaves of fashionable things. And you're right, because we are bombarded, aren't we? Bombarded by advertising, which is trying to get you to buy things. And a lot of advertising is they don't just tell you about the product. They're putting in this lifestyle. If you buy this thing, you will have this wonderful lifestyle. Everyone will envy you. And we watch car adverts, don't we? It always annoys me. Car adverts, and the people driving the cars are always looking very smug and it's like they're racing off ahead of everybody.
This is one of Mr. Steve's common complaints. Anyway, we've got to move on, Steve.
Yes, but it's a good point that people become slaves to fashion and to fashionable things and to materialism, and that you keep borrowing money to get that lifestyle that all your friends and family see, and you've got to maintain that. And of course, if you lose your job, that's when you get into problems.
Okie dokie. And you might be born into wealth. Now, I think this is an interesting one because there are people who make their own money, but there are also people who are born into wealth. At the moment, a lot of people are making comments about, I think it's the daughter of the Getty Empire. So do you remember John Paul Getty?
Yes.
Very, very wealthy man, but he became a recluse later in life because he realised that money got him nowhere. He was one of the richest people in the world. His family hated him. He treated them like animals. He treated them really badly, and he took pleasure in watching them all fight with each other. And one of his, I think it's his daughter or granddaughter, has now become an activist for saving the planet, and she's now putting a lot of that money into these protests that are happening in this country, where people are sticking their fingers to the roads or throwing tins of tomato soup over priceless paintings. So a lot of that money is coming from one of the Gettys' relatives. I think it's the granddaughter. It might be the daughter, but she's using a lot of that money because she feels guilty. Because, of course, the Getty family became wealthy from oil, from drilling for oil.
What she should do, though, instead of funding protests that really are going to achieve nothing, she should put that money into research in order to develop new technologies that will enable us to take our dependency away from oil.
Yes.
That's what she should do, because people gluing themselves to roadsides just to insulate houses, which is going to not do anything measurable in helping the planet, CO2 emissions, she should put the money into helping research into new forms of power, or why didn't she buy a wind farm?
See, that up? Can I just say I have a theory that is exactly what she's doing. I have a theory, but what you find sometimes with people who have money, they will hedge their bets, or maybe they will spread their money, not just in one place, but in more than one place. And this is why many multimillionaires and billionaires, especially in the United States, they will give money to both political parties. And I think it might seem like a strange thing to do, but I think it's pretty clever, because whoever wins the election will be in your debt. And I think that's fantastic. So if I was a multimillionaire and I gave money to the Conservatives and also the Liberals or the Democrats, so you have Republicans and Democrats, so wealthy people are giving money to both parties. And I think that's brilliant, because then you're kind of hedging your bets. You are making sure that whatever happens, you win. You will win anyway.
Also, in reality, you shouldn't be able to do that at all. You shouldn't be able to fund these parties, because anyway, that's another debate.
That's another.
Beatrice says in their country, instead of a silver spoon, which you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth,
yes,
you use the word golden cradle.
Oh, I see. You were born. Oh, so you were born in a golden cradle.
Yes, the born with a silver spoon in your mouth, born into a golden cradle.
You didn't have a golden cradle in your mouth.
Yeah, it means that your family had generational wealth.
Yes,
which they were able to pass
on.
I'm just explaining.
A person who creates their own wealth, they create their self-made wealth. And I have to say, I'm going to say it now, I admire people who do things in life that are, and I would say they are impressive. And I think a person who is self-made as a wealthy person, who has wealth, I'm always impressed by, I have to say, because what you find quite often is these people come from quite modest backgrounds. Maybe their family did not have much money, but they are able to climb the ladder, and maybe they form their own business. They put lots of effort and work into it. So a person who creates their own wealth is a person who can be referred to as self-made.
Yes, self-made millionaire. Somebody who started from nothing, and of course that's very common in America. People that, when there was a lot of immigration, sort of at the turn of the last century, a lot of people from Europe went to America, and a lot of them made a lot of money by coming from nothing and developing their own businesses and becoming wealthy that way. You can only become wealthy unless you're born into it, or you become successful in business. You can't become you don't get rich by starting your own business. You only get rich by working for somebody else. You get wealthy by becoming successful in business.
Yes. So you can work for a company and receive a wage or a salary and become rich. So you can if you have a good job. Anyway, moving on. A wealthy person might be described as minted. I love this one. I like this one. Minted. A person who is minted. They have all the money they need and more. So they are wealthy, they are minted. You might say that person has so much money. I always imagine there was a famous movie. Do you remember the movie with Donald Duck? And he had an uncle, Scrooge McDuck.
Oh, somebody mentioned that earlier.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I always remember. There's a great scene where they dive into all of this gold and they swim around in the gold coins. And I think that's a great scene. Just because you can't do it. You'd break all your bones.
Francesca says, so Scrooge McDuck, is he rich or wealthy? I haven't seen the film, so I don't know.
Well, it's based on A Christmas Carol.
Oh, I see.
So the whole story is based on A Christmas Carol. It's just the Disney version. But it's brilliant.
So Scrooge had his own business, so I would say he was probably wealthy. So he had a lot of money. He didn't spend much, of course. That was part of the character. But he had his own business, so I'm guessing he was probably... And he had property, so yeah, wealthy would be the phrase I would use there. Because he gave it all away, didn't he?
He did. So the next one... So we had a person who makes their own money, and now we have wealth that is inherited. And we often refer to this as old money. Yes. I love that expression. So when a person comes from old money, it means it's inherited, or they have old money. It means their family was wealthy, maybe the parents died, and then they left their son or daughter, or maybe they split the money, and they all become wealthy from money that they've inherited. So they can be wealthy from other people's money. And we often call that old money.
Yes.
You might say he or she comes from old money.
They were born into it,
yes.
Like King Charles, for example.
Yes.
Or anybody that's got, But yeah, exactly.
That's a very good example, Steve.
Yes, they say they're wealthy, but they haven't made it themselves. It's old money. The implication being that they haven't really made any money themselves. They've just inherited it and carried on spending it that way.
To be in the money. So these are now phrases we're looking at. To be in the money, maybe you gain a large amount of money suddenly. Maybe you win a lot of money. You are in the money. You are suddenly wealthy. I'm in the money, I'm in the money.
Of course, the opposite. Are we doing the opposite of the previous one?
The previous one?
New money.
Well, I suppose new money is kind of suggested that it would be new money if you make it yourself.
Yes.
So yes, but that's right. No?
Started a business.
That's it.
Old money is you've inherited, new money is you've made it yourself.
Yes.
You've had a business and you made it yourself. And often it's a bit used in a snobbish way, isn't it? if somebody says, "Oh, that's new money," it's often used in a snobbish way to indicate that, oh, they've only just come into the money. You know, they've just, you know, it's often used snobbishly.
Yes, I thought
old money is perceived as being better.
Actually, I hate to say this, Steve, but I think it's the other way around. I think if you get the money without trying, I think that's the one they look down on. But a self-made person is always revered.
But in social circles, I'm talking about, in social circles, people that have already got lots of wealth will look down on people who have just acquired the wealth. It's almost like, oh, we've already got the wealth.
Okay.
But yeah, you might be right. There could be a difference in perception.
Yes.
But I think if you're in social circles, because it's often shown on films, isn't it? Somebody that suddenly gets successful in business, tries to join a golf club, and they're very loud and extravagant and showy, and it's, you know, people are looking down on them.
Yes.
Oh, that's new money.
Or they're Jewish as well. Some people don't like that. So, well, it's true. Well, yes. Apparently, in the United States, a lot of golf clubs, a lot of country clubs won't accept Jewish people. It's very strange. Rich, to live in the lap of luxury. I like that one. If you live in the lap of luxury. So imagine lying in someone's lap. Now imagine that you are resting on top of a pile of money with your head. So maybe your pillow, Steve, is made of money.
Yes, you've just got lots of luxurious things. You've got probably silk sheets. You've probably got a room that is covered in wood. Everything is luxurious. You've got the best soaps. You've got the best of everything. The most expensive perfume and the most expensive jewellery.
Maybe you have a servant.
You are pampered.
Maybe you have a butler.
Yes.
See, I think you would be a good butler. You would be a very good manservant because you have that dignity.
No, I'm the landowner, Mr. Duncan. I don't have, I have people working for me.
What I find,
for somebody else.
What I find strange is you could fit into both of those things. So I can imagine you as a butler as well, like Anthony Hopkins from Remains of the Day. So that sort of character, very stoic, with no emotion, and he just carries out his duty and does what he's told.
Yes, my lord.
Yes, I think so. I think so. You would be either. You could be a very good landowner or one of the gentry. That means a rich person, wealthy, or you could be a butler. So I think you would fit into both of those characters.
Well, it'll be interesting to see which way the cookie crumbles.
And if you are poor, you live in poverty. So to be in poverty. Although, as you rightly said, Steve, I think poverty is often used incorrectly, especially in countries where there is a lot of wealth already. And you might say that because you can't have a nice new car, or maybe you can't afford to have streaming services like Netflix, that you are living in poverty because you can't afford to have those things. So I think poor is quite a word that covers many, many things. I think it does.
Yes, I think people from other countries that don't have such a generous welfare state. I mean, in most developed countries, most European countries, and in America, if you lose your job, then there will be help from the government at least for a short period of time to help you pay for your mortgage, for your debts, to pay for your bills. It's means tested, but there will be some money. Whereas in other countries, there'll be nothing, and you might have to sell everything.
Yes. So I know I said this. I think it was last week or the week before. We're very lucky, and I always say this. I always put my hand on my heart and say, I feel lucky to live in this country. There is never a day where I don't think, yeah, I'm lucky. It's great. It's good. I'm very lucky to live in this country. We have quite a good welfare system. We have a good health service. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't quite work. So I feel lucky. I don't have many possessions. I don't have jewellery. I wouldn't describe myself as a rich person. So, but I still appreciate the things that I have.
It could be a lot worse.
Yes. And the final one, and I suppose this is the one that you mentioned earlier, Steve.
Okay.
Middle class. The middle class. How would you define the middle class?
Yes, I would define, as you put there, you've got a comfortable life. You've got a job that's earning an above average wage, probably, or both you and your partner are both working and both bringing a wage into the house. You're not earning a great deal of money. You're not living a rich lifestyle, but you're comfortable. So you probably own your own house. You probably have 2 children. You probably have a car, and you probably can buy a new car every three years. You probably have a couple of holidays a year, maybe abroad, something like that. So you live a comfortable life. You've got plenty of food. As you say, you have holidays when you like. You probably have a new car every 3 years, but not an expensive car, just an average sort of car. The middle classes, which didn't used to exist 100 years ago.
No.
It was just rich people, very few, and poor people, and there was nobody in the middle.
Yeah. So it's interesting to note it was around 300 or 400 years before things really changed. So it was very much set in
thousands of years.
Yes. Well, I'm talking about sort of since the arrival of relative civilization. So you can talk about the 1700s, 1600s, 1500s maybe. So there was always that just one line running right for the middle of all society. Have not. But nowadays there is something in the middle.
Yes.
And they have, but they're not wealthy and they're not poor. They have, and they survive, and they have a comfortable life, as you said.
Yes, and this, the growth of the middle classes started particularly after the Second World War, when countries became wealthier and wealthier because of industrialisation.
Yes.
Because it's really industrialisation that created the middle classes, but the middle classes have been suffering a lot in the last few decades, particularly in America, because they're being taxed more and more. So they are having not such a comfortable time as they used to.
They've been described as a soft target.
Yes, because very poor people are protected against high taxes, and very rich people or wealthy people find ways of avoiding to pay tax, legal ways. So the people that have to pay for all the services, the healthcare, the welfare, are the middle classes. And it's always the middle classes that suffer when there are tax increases, like we're going through at the moment. We're going through a period, certainly in this country, where taxes are, I don't think they've ever been so high since, for 100, for probably since before the Second World War or just after the Second World War. Taxes have never been so high.
Yes, I think you're right.
And it's the middle classes that will suffer the most from that.
Yes. Things are never easy. If there's one thing I've learned about life, is things are never easy. But you might find yourself in a situation where you are comfortable.
Yeah.
You are neither rich nor poor, but you are comfortable. You have a life that is there.
Comfortably off.
You wake up in a bed. You wake up in a house. You can have your breakfast and your meals. You might have to go to work. You might have to have 2 jobs. Some people do. And you have a comfortable life.
Yes.
And I suppose another fair thing to say is working class and middle class have kind of become the same thing, haven't they? Because a lot of people would say that they are working in a job, but it's a well-paid job, and maybe they are saving money and they are able to have property and then slowly move up the property ladder. But they will still stay in that class level. They won't go high, and hopefully they won't sink down to the bottom.
Yes, but anybody that has got a job and is dependent on a job to service their lifestyle is always, of course, at risk of that lifestyle being taken away if they lose their job. But yeah, the middle classes are talked about a lot. They're quite important for political parties to support them, because quite often it's the middle class people that will determine which party gets into power in the UK, Labour or because depending on the tax rules.
And we always know when elections are coming, because then suddenly all of these amazing promises start flying around. Every politician is promising you all of the wonderful things that you've always wanted, lowering tax or lowering the cost of items that you buy in a supermarket. There's always something suddenly they can find that thing that they weren't giving you when they were in power. I love that. So, Mr. Steve, I think we have come to the end of the road.
Well, Mr. Duncan, it's been delightful to be here today, to be part of your rich and poor lesson. Yeah. And I'm now going to go off back to my stately home.
You're going to count your money?
I'm going to have a glass of port, and I might have some caviar later as well.
Steve is going back now to count his money. There you go. There you go, Steve.
There we go, yes.
That's your salary, by the way.
That's my salary for today's lesson. I'll tell you what, go and treat yourself to something nice, Mr. Duncan. Buy something pretty.
I'm like one of those ladies of the night, or maybe a kept man.
If you've got a bra, I would have put it down the front of your bra.
All I can say is I wish this was real, but sadly,
we know that
it is not. It is not real. It's just paper napkins, unfortunately. I wish it was real.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, lovely to be here, Mr. Duncan, and to take part in this lesson today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something, and I look forward to seeing you all again, maybe Wednesday.
Yes, I am back on Wednesday, and I have a feeling Mr. Steve will be here as well.
I'll be looking poor.
Yes, he'll be back to his normal self, looking as he always...
An average middle-class Brit.
An average middle-class... middle-class, you wish.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. There he goes. Mr. Steve is now leaving the building. Well, he's leaving the studio. Did you enjoy it, Steve?
Yes.
I think Steve enjoyed it today because he was able to be Lord Steve, and I think he really does like being Lord Steve. We might be getting snow later. Wouldn't that be amazing? So hopefully, perhaps on Wednesday when we come and join you live, and hopefully you will be with us as well on Wednesday, maybe we will have snow on the ground. We will have to wait and see what happens. Thank you very much for your company. Thank you very much for watching today. It's been good, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been good for you. Back on Wednesday, 2 p.m. UK time. And I will see you then. This is Mr. Duncan in the birthplace of English, saying thank you very much for watching me today. I will see you again on Wednesday. And of course, until the next time we meet here, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Stay healthy, stay happy. Give me a thumbs up, don't forget, to show you like what I'm doing. And of course, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Ta-ta for now.